When I was 12, I spent the summer with my grandparents on their ranch in a rather isolated part of Montana. The nearest local town was quite small and many miles away. Every Sunday, we made the long trip to town just to attend Mormon church meetings. A little later that summer, my 16-year-old cousin joined us at the ranch. I was raised in a rural setting. I was quite happy with the majesty and solitude of the beautiful mountain surroundings of the ranch. Helping my grandfather with ranch duties and roaming the countryside kept me busy and occupied. My cousin was from a large city of Southern California. He was not used to the routine of country living. He often became bored, so he spent as much time as possible in the tiny town of that area with some of my other cousins that lived there. As the summer progressed, the small town prepared to host a rodeo that was a barely existent, ongoing annual event. My cousin was recruited to help. My cousin told my grandparents about the rodeo well in advance. This was to make sure he would be able to be in town to help with the rodeo for all of its scheduled days of that particular weekend. The scheduled days included Sunday, which my cousin duly pointed out. My grandmother was a very pleasant woman, but also a very strict and devout Mormon. She was not very happy about the planned infringement of the Holy Sabbath day for the sake of a small-town rodeo. This conflict with the holy invoked some of the most intense ire in her that I had ever seen. I still remember what she said. "Flapjacks, I was hoping that thing would fizzle out. We do not need that kind of thing around here." It was as close to cussing as I would ever hear from my saintly grandmother. I never forgot her words or the emotional conviction of her response. My grandparents were very clear in their response. They would not forbid my cousin from working in the rodeo on Sunday, but they would not personally do anything to facilitate the violation of the Sabbath either. My cousin was told that he was free to do as he pleased, but he would have to make his own travel arrangements for going into town that did not include my grandparents if he was going to violate the Sabbath. The saintly message was quite clear. There was no worthy excuse for breaking the Sabbath in my grandmother's saintly mind. My grandparents and their religious devotion had a huge impact on me that summer, while the influence of my older, girl-crazy, urbanite cousin hardly weighed on me at all. Years later, when the time came, I served an LDS mission. The mission had several highly noted major historical areas for the Mormon Church in it. I served the assigned time at great personal expense. I baptized some people. I was honorably released. I returned home. Somehow, I had more questions about the Mormon religion when I was through with my missionary service than I did before. Most of all, I had doubts that were never there before, but I still believed in Mormonism as I clung to the faithful example set by my devout Mormon grandparents. After my Mormon mission, I visited my grandparents very often. There was a lot of love between us. The nagging questions I had about the Mormon religion loomed larger than ever in the shadow of my LDS mission, even as the challenges of adult life started pressing. I hoped that as more time passed, I would get the needed answers to my questions and my nagging doubts. And I did. There had been much conflict between the actions of my mission leaders and the Christ that I had come to know, due in large part to my grandparents' wonderful example. The conflict had been so great and so taxing that I was compelled to take a break from the church. The longer I was away from the church, the better I felt, which was exactly the opposite of the way that church leaders insisted such matters worked. Eventually, I was reeled back into the church due to marriage, but there was much left unresolved in my mind despite a lot of time spent on concentrated pondering of Mormon doctrinal issues. And, if anything, my study about Mormonism always generated more questions than it resolved. Eventually, my wonderful grandparents passed away. Church leaders are supposed to be a source of inspiration. With my grandparents no longer being around, I paid more attention to senior church leaders, especially when one of them started playing up his old-time folksy manner. Through the years, I had heard the ongoing rumblings of Utah trying to get the Olympics. At first, it was just the Utah ski industry that kept pushing for an Olympics in Utah. Then I caught wind of a very different impetus behind bidding for the Olympic Games. It was based on religious motivation. Then I heard the Olympics were needed to help promote the church. This kind of thinking was pure folly to me. Why would Christ's divine kingdom need that kind of tainted worldly promotion? The Holy Spirit is supposed to sell Christ's message, not flashy, attention-grabbing worldly festivals. However, many good members of the church did not like my thoughts on the matter when I expressed them. My thoughts were nonsense to them. I was attacked because I did not properly understand the logic of spreading the Latter-day Gospel. Good members love to point out that anyone who could not see the great opportunity to promote the Lord's church with the Olympic really must not be a very good Mormon. The church was the scriptural stone. The stone did not need hands to help cut it out, but it did need the Olympics to help it roll forth to fill the earth with the Latter-day Restored Mormon Gospel. That was the official word according to Utah Olympic promoters, and questioning the word was bad. In the wake of such authoritative posing, the only thing to do was wait for the prophet of the church to say, "Thus saith the Lord." I waited. It never happened. The thing that did happen was that LDS Inc.'s obsession with the Olympics became glaringly obvious. In a scenario that looked like a mining town preacher being in love with the local prostitute. The Salt Lake Olympic Organizing Committee, SLOC, ended up openly including a Mormon corporate executive officer named John E. Fowler. As a Mormon general authority, Elder Fowler would readily report to the president of the LDS Corporation, also known as the Mormon Church. On June 16, 1995, Utah had its wish. It was named the host of the 2002 Winter Olympics. Many good members saw the selection as ultimate divine approval and proof that the pursuit of the Olympics by Utah was right. Unfortunately for the Olympic advocating good members of Utah, the corrupt tree of Utah Olympic involvement started bearing bitter fruit well before 2002. Feeling very confident due to so much recent LDS Inc. PR success, like winning the 2002 Olympics, Mormon prophet Gordon B.S. Hinckley appeared on Larry King Live on September 8, 1998. Although Hinckley declined to take a direct stand on scandal-besieged U.S. President Bill Clinton, the Mormon prophet spoke abundantly on national TV about the importance of morals and morality to ring up PR points for his LDS church at Bill Clinton's expense. Hinckley obviously enjoyed playing the grand high and mighty role of designate advocate of morality implied by his position as president of the Mormon Church. Hinckley's morality-style rhetoric was intentionally in perfect harmony with the promotion of his current major publication, a book titled Standing for Something, a lamentation on the lack of morality in modern society. Shortly after Prophet Hinckley's big PR score on Larry King Live, local Salt Lake City news reporters broke open a story about $2 million in cash that was used for bribes in the 2002 Olympic bid scandal. With my background and my grandparents' fine, upstanding example in mind, I fully expected the prophet to stand up and say, "We do not need that kind of thing around here." The problem was the church had supplied the $2 million used for the Olympic bribes. Gordon B.S. Hinckley could not reject the very thing his corporation had paid to bring about. Instead of answering the charges, the Mormon prophet Gordon, standing for something, Hinckley, hid out in his ivory tower headquarters at LDS Inc. Temple Square. Due to the compelling essence of the story, an official LDS Church corporate spokesman was finally sent out to respond. He said that the funds were non-offering based, a de facto admission of impropriety by the church, because if the funding was proper, then the origin of the funds would not matter. With such an early, bitter Olympic harvest, the good members desperately needed an excuse. Pure Mormon schizophrenic hypocrisy poured from their pathetic mouths. Regarding the tainted Olympic bid, they said it had only done what others had already done, just to expose flaws in the process. So there was no wrongdoing by any Mormons, or whoever it was that was trying so hard to bring the Olympics to Utah.